Hello and thank you for joining. My name is Jason Etter. Today's session is covering why a business should consider G Suite, and also just to go over what G Suite really is since this new announcement has been made by Google. And we're going to talk in particular about G Suite Business and what that is. And lastly, I'd like to make you aware that this session is being recorded. Also, ask questions. If you have any questions, you'll see a link above that says goo.gl/slides/63UXPQ. Feel free to ask questions there. Okay? Now, let's get started. In order to fully appreciate the difference between Google's offerings and considering whether or not you want to upgrade to G Suite Business, I want to give you a brief overview and history of the App Suite, what Google has offered in the past. It's important to understand how much is in the apps offering from Google and how it's evolved. So let's clear up any confusion surrounding the names relating to Google's products and the different versions that were available and are currently available. Most familiar, of course, is Google Apps, and that's where we'll get started. So at the start, Google offered a free edition of their App Suite, which was more commonly known as the Standard Edition, so Google Apps Standard Edition. It had a reduced set of business features such as Google Sites, Google Video, and Google Groups. It was Google's first step towards offering a solution for education, nonprofits, and even some startups. Then, on December 6th of 2012, Google stopped offering this free edition to new customers. If you still have the free edition, you can continue to use it for free, but be cautious as it's no longer offered or supported, no longer offered to new users or really supported at all. After eliminating the Standard Edition, Google was focusing primarily on its core offerings, which was known for years as Google Apps for Business. And this included Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Contacts, Google Chat, or GChat as it was known, Google Groups, Google Sites, Google Video, and Google Docs. Special editions also emerged in this transition, such as Google Apps for Education, Google Apps for Nonprofits, and Google Apps for Government. Education and nonprofits are both free versions of the suite, which is extremely generous and has been widely embraced. For example, 66% of the top 100 schools, according to U.S. News and World Report, are using the education version of Google. So when hiring or looking to expand, that's a statistic that could deeply impact the decision on whether or not you want to go all in with Google's offerings. In 2014, another round of rebranding occurred, and Google introduced Google Apps for Work, Google Apps for Work Unlimited, and Google Apps for Education and Nonprofits. Google Apps for Government hasn't seen much action, and I'm curious if it's rolling into the EDU and NFP space. I don't have any confirmation on that, but I haven't really seen much happen with Google Apps for Government, so I don't really have much to report on in this session. Apart from the name difference, though, read Google Apps for Business versus Google Apps for Work, the pricing and overall offering really remained intact for several years. What changed, however, was, well, it continued to get better. Actually, it enhanced dramatically. As a refresh, Google's core offering was Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Sites, Groups, and Chat. In the past 3 years, Google introduced Google+, which serves as a visually appealing internal community tool to share ideas, collaborate on projects. Google+ also is where Google introduced their video conferencing tool, Google Hangouts, for the first time. Today, Hangouts has replaced Google Chat entirely and has enabled seamless device-agnostic messaging and video conferencing from any browser and any device, and even embedding a conference link in calendar events. Also, Google released Google Vault, which initially enabled organization-wide administrative search and retention of mail data on all record chats. And actually, now the way that Hangouts works, all chats are being recorded through Vault, which is great. So if you have a retention hold or something like that, which we'll talk about later, Vault is a must-have. Most importantly, though, Google Docs evolved into Google Drive. Now, this offered a web-based storage and real-time editing suite so you can create text files, spreadsheets, forms, presentations, and drawings. Google released add-ons also, which allowed third-party developers to design tools directly inside of Drive files. And more recently, Google made a strategic investment in QuickOffice in order to not only store any file type, but work towards being able to seamlessly view and edit an incredible list of file types without needing additional software. And all in mind, this is all accessible and done through the web, so no installs needed. All you need is your web browser, preferably Google Chrome. You log into your Google account, and voila, you have access to this entire suite. Okay? So that's the history of where Google Apps led us up until recently when they introduced G Suite. So what is G Suite? Well, I found that it gets overlooked, that the most in this recent transition, it's really Google has made a clear culmination of Google Cloud as a service. And G Suite, which is formerly Google Apps for Business, is integral to it. So G Suite is a part of Google Cloud, a really integral part. Your G Suite username and password are the keys to integrating. So Google wants every business to understand the depth of what Google's technology can cover, which is essentially every aspect of your business, from integrating with, for example, you can have machine learning tools and APIs, the enterprise maps and APIs, and also the Android phones, tablets, and Chromebooks that all access the cloud. All of these different keys or pieces to Google's cloud offering allows you to integrate and continue to work, and really provides a full platform as a service to organizations of every size. So as you see here, we have Google Cloud Platform, right? And this is where you can design, create, and distribute actual applications and storage facilities and almost anything imaginable. And it ties into different ways of using, maps, etc. And then there's G Suite, which is also part of it too, which is what we're talking about today. And then, of course, underneath G Suite, you also have Chrome and Android, which all of these are Google's offerings, and they're really makes for an incredible story for organizations looking to really live and work and breathe inside of a web-based platform. This is the way to do it through Google's eyes, and it's incredible where and how it's evolved. So let's talk about some of the new additions to G Suite and really how this vision of integrating all these different layers, Google Cloud Platform, Maps and Machine Learning, G Suite, Chrome and Android, where they all fall in place. So first, let's talk about App Maker.
You're on Google, and you're enjoying the collaboration products, mail, calendar, contacts. However, you also have this need for a business process to be automated.
Our agency, they don't have the money to do a full-fledged app. They just need something simple that makes their life easier. Right now we have the blue form because it's a blue sheet of paper.
The Wyoming Flexible Benefits Enrollment Plan.
You're filling it out and signing it, and then they have to data entry all that back in. 10,000 people, a lot of blue trees.
We were able to make this an app maker.
We showed it to our HR department, and they were so excited.
Honestly, at first I was very skeptical. It just seemed too easy. Like, oh yeah, I drag and drop a couple little things. What do I care? I'm a real developer. I don't use these little gadgets. But as I got to use the tool more, I was like, wow, this really can do some pretty cool stuff. I was able to develop a relatively sophisticated app for login monitoring. From ideation all the way through the final delivered app to our administrators for them to use was 5 weeks. And that's just unheard of in any other kind of product lifecycle.
Why App Maker? Because not everyone is me. I really like working deep down in the code, working low level. The great thing about App Maker is you don't need to have that deep down knowledge. People are able to make the applications that can be used by an entire company.
I never pictured myself developing anything. App Maker is an insanely awesome way to solve a small problem.
App Maker makes my job easier because I don't need multiple tools. I can just develop it directly on App Maker.
One word to describe App Maker: simple.
Quick, flexible,
Versatile.
Empowerment.
One word to describe App Maker: game changer.
All right, so AppMaker, right? It's a browser-based platform for building browser-based corporate apps for internal use. And though it has an emphasis on approachable features such as drag and drop widgets, you can also use to rapidly assemble features without writing code. Google also has aimed to give it enough power to tackle fairly meaty development challenges as well, as you saw in that video. So this is a perfect example of using all of those different pieces that I was talking about in this slide and integrating it and making it easy and very scalable to your staff. So G Suite is a huge part of that because that's where how you authenticate to access the application, but you can build it and push it out to your organization very quickly. And even developers are liking what they're seeing here because even though some people love to live in the code, as that one gentleman talked about, there's also an opening to a new door has opened to other business departments that may not be as familiar with what can be done, and they can say, I have this blue piece of paper that we fill out, and it's a manual data entry, and it really slows us down, and it would be awesome to automate that. And that's exactly where AppMaker comes into play, and it's such a game changer, as they put it, when using G Suite. So the next thing I want to talk about is the new Google Sites. So I'm going to talk a lot about it, but let me just show you this quickly. So on June of 2016, Google revealed a dramatic and widely asked for update to Google Sites. Google has made a substantial update, as you could see from the video. The look and inner workings of Google Sites has changed dramatically. They've added real-time editing, instant mobile optimization, complete integration with Google Apps, or G Suite, if you will, and an easy, even easier interface than there was before. The new version of Sites makes the creation of a site as easy as it is to create a Google Docs slide and template or spreadsheet. And they've even added Google Sites to Google Drive just to reiterate that point. It has all kinds of interesting add-ons too, like being able to make an intelligent copy and paste functionality. It'll actually auto-detect bad font colors, etc., like white font on white background, and actually make suggestions and fix it, which is really very helpful and can save a lot of time. The mobile optimization is something I found irritating in the past with sites, so it's really nice to know that they've changed that. So you create a site on your desktop, you publish it, someone jumps onto the site on their mobile device, and it seamlessly changes right there for you. It makes it much better to view, edit, and access. I talked a little bit about this just a few seconds ago, but it is worth reiterating that this will actually, the shortcut to Sites will actually be inside Drive. So just like you would click Create New in Drive to create a spreadsheet, a presentation, or a doc, you actually create a site. So I think this is really interesting. For G Suite, business users, which we'll talk about what that means a little bit later, sites will actually be included in the unlimited package. So that means unlimited sites that you'll be able to create. For the for the G Suite standard users or basic users, the storage will be lumped into the same quota, which is that 30 gigabytes that you get. So it makes it very clear and very easy to organize. All right, now let's move on to the next item that I wanted to highlight, Team Drive. So Team Drives is shifting from the traditional Google Drive ad hoc usability and shareability concept to focus on the team. So this is content ownership and sharing that will be managed at the team level. New roles give more granular control over team content, and you should be able to add anyone to the team and grant it instant access to all the work in one place. So, for example, if Sally or Thomas leaves the group, all that data that Sally and Thomas were working on aren't going to suddenly go away and not be accessible. With Team Drives, all that data is owned and operated within the Team Drive folder or project, as you can see in the image, which is really something that I think a lot of businesses have been yearning for. At Profound Cloud, we have a switch from a file server to Google Drive methodology that we've been implementing for the past 2 years now, which has been very successful. And a lot of the philosophies that we have in this in our methodology there is now available through Team Drives, or will be once Team Drives is fully released. So this is very exciting stuff, and we're excited to see how we can even evolve our philosophy even further. So today's offerings are G Suite Basic, G Suite Business, G Suite for Education, Nonprofits, and Government. Okay? So this is really helpful to know that these are the three offerings, if you will, that before it was Google Apps for Work, Google Apps for Work Unlimited, or Google Apps Unlimited, etc. Now we have Basic and Business. And let's talk about that a little bit further. So each of the mentioned offerings have contributed to enabling over 190 million active users to collaborate, communicate, and access their pertinent information on any device. And that's over 5 million businesses who use G Suite and G Suite Basic and Business, which is really worth noting because that number continues to grow. So let's talk about the other side of the coin here, though. I think it's fair that if we're going to be talking about whether or not you're considering G Suite, let's look at some of the competition and understand a little bit more about what's being offered. So Box and Dropbox are strong competitors to G Suite, especially when you're looking at Google Drive as an independent application suite. So that's very true. You can purchase and utilize Google Drive as an isolated application. You can turn off mail, calendar, contacts, sites, groups, Hangouts, everything, and just use Google Drive. And if you were to do that, you would get something very similar to Box or Dropbox. And Box and Dropbox are very good at storing data. And to gain support, they have an enterprise SLA that you're going to spend, at least somewhere in the range of $10 to $15 per user per month. But there is a caveat. Both of these apps are very dependent on Microsoft. Now, it may not be a caveat if you're a Microsoft shop. If you're starting from scratch, you can store anything you want here, so it doesn't have to be. But I'm talking about if you're using Drive or considering Drive and you're utilizing something like a Box or a Dropbox, you really want to consider what are you going to be storing and what else do you need. Whereas for the same price range, right, the $10 per user per month, the low, that's the entire G Suite Business offering. So that's something to consider. But whether you're stuck in using Office, or you're sick and tired of it, or you love it, Google presents a very compelling offering or alternative, depending on which one of those buckets you fit in. If your organization relies on Office, you can still go Google. You can get off the Exchange server and at least reduce your IT overhead. If your organization is looking to move away from Microsoft, G Suite is a very competitive solution. So, for example, you have G Suite Basic, which is $5 per user per month, G Suite Business, which is $10 per user per month. And just to reiterate, these prices right here include the entire app suite. So I feel like that's something that always gets missed because people are looking at these options when you have Box, Dropbox, and even Microsoft Office. If you're going to use Microsoft Office and really not utilize OneDrive because maybe you just don't like the way that OneDrive functions, and you have to, in addition to purchasing Office, also need to consider Dropbox or Box. Well, that's substantially higher than what you get for the entire suite through Google, and I think that's worth reiterating. So, for less than the starting price of Dropbox or Box's business solutions, you not only get Google Drive storage, but you also get to create, collaborate on those text files, presentations, spreadsheets, and you get mail, calendar, distribution groups, roles, sites, Google+, Hangouts, so the Google video conferencing, if you will, and messaging, along with mobile device management, a full admin console to manage your business. But if we keep talking about competition, I think these icons should look very familiar to you. Well, because file synchronization and sharing is really becoming the on-demand need for businesses, especially when they're considering what they're going to do in the cloud. That's really the first place that a lot of people go in terms of storage of my day-to-day data. No longer relying on that file server and branching out and having something in the cloud. But to be fair, the real landscape that we're dealing with today looks like this. TechCrunch recently ran an article on a report held by 451 Research that they surveyed over 1,000 IT pros, right? And they asked which sync and share tools they use at their companies, and it was discovered that Dropbox was the enterprise leader by far, with more than 40% user adoption. The next in line was OneDrive with just over 25%, so 40% to 25%, followed by Google in third with over 20%. Box was in fourth, just under 15%. And all the rest lumped in there together created the 10%. But here's what it gets kind of interesting or troubling. Only 18% of all of the results claim that they actually currently pay for the service. So that means that regardless of the solution utilized, enterprises are abandoning best practices of ensuring corporate data is being backed by an SLA and supported 24/7. So they may be utilizing Dropbox, but they're not managing it. There's no understanding of what's being shared, how it's being shared. So the only 18% of that, the whole number, was actually being paid for, had management, had admin credentials available to them, and was able to follow an SLA. That's a little alarming to me. Keeping synchronization in mind, I use this slide a lot because it's true. For the first time in history, ComScore reported that mobile use, phones and tablets, are outpacing desktops. And I think that comes at no surprise today, right? Mobile devices accounted for 55% of the internet usage in the United States. Apps made up for 47%. I don't mean apps as in Google. I mean apps as in just applications utilizing the internet traffic. And so PCs came in under 47%, I think at 45% exactly. So I don't think this is a surprise, right? I mean, think about how often you use your mobile device. So the reason why I think this is so important is this is that image right there when you see people on their different devices. Whether they're on an iPad, an Android tablet, phone, or something else, they are absolutely dependent on mobility. And that's something that you need to consider when you're utilizing a solution. Is it completely focused on that mobile movement? And I think that's certainly where Google's mind is. So we've been talking about why web, why cloud, and of course, why G Suite. So let's assume that you want to utilize G Suite at some capacity. So let's talk more about what G Suite Business is and then address some considerations before deciding on which offering makes the most sense for your team. With G Suite Business, there are no limits to slow you down. Don't let your infrastructure slow you down, right? Unleash unlimited storage, because that means no more managing quotas ever. Drive supports multi-terabyte files and is available in over 70 languages. Google Drive is built on Google's globally optimized data center network, so performance and availability are world-class, while also being green, which is not bad too. And they offer a 99.98% availability with no planned downtime. That means no patches, no fixes, no interruptions to your organization. All right? In addition to being available, data also needs to be secure. Google's infrastructure has all the major security certifications. Take a look. and they continue to grow. And they also have a team of over 400 security engineers working full-time to protect your systems and users. G Suite Business also includes audit reports that let you track all user activities and security controls so you can optimize G Suite for your organization's needs. For example, in that AppMaker video I showed you, that's the type of reporting utilizing those APIs available to you in G Suite Business that that gentleman was able to create. Data in Drive is also encrypted in REST and in transit. Mobile security is built in. The unlimited storage that is offered through G Suite Business gives your company a company-wide file, mail, and Hangout search over in the course of all of the suite, which is pretty great. Google is constantly coming up with new ways to detect security threats, so you'll be able to benefit from innovations like suspicious login detection. Again, that's specifically what that gentleman was working on in AppMaker, which I think is really worth noting. And it comes with an admin panel, which we'll talk about more as well, which is something that gets overlooked because it's just from my experience and the years of using G Suite, it's kind of expected, but it is also taken for granted when you're used to using some other applications that are out there. G Suite Business is easy to manage with this centralized admin panel, which I was just talking about. It helps you facilitate account transfers, undeletion of pertinent files, simple pricing, and advanced reporting. This is actually the highlights page, which it's just a very simple page that you can pull up in the admin panel, but it's invaluable because it gives you a quick overview of all the activity across your domain. You can see how many Hangouts, docs, sheets, and slides your organization has created, who is close to reaching their storage quota in the case they're not using G Suite Business, and they're using the G Suite Basic. You can also export any report to Google Sheets to slice and dice that data as well. G Suite Business unleashes those APIs I talked about, and that all the third-party application integrators are heavily investing in development work into, which really is something that you should consider as well. Integrations with your existing authentication systems, such as LDAP, Active Directory, and SSO, are also available. And the G Suite reporting features, it's really easy to visualize usage and sharing trends as well. So here's the nutshell version of what we've been discussing. G Suite Basic is $5 per user per month. G Suite Business is $10 per user per month with the added incentive of advanced admin controls and APIs. Audit and reporting for Drive and sharing, Google Vault for Gmail, Drive, and Hangouts, a full archive of all emails sent by your organization and received to fulfill your retention needs and policies, and of course you get unlimited storage, as you can see. So $5 per user per month, you get all this. $10 per user per month, you get everything in the basic plus unlimited storage, the advanced admin controls, Google Vault, which is huge, and just some different capabilities from an administrator perspective that really makes this a no-brainer, and it's well worth the cost of upgrading. So let's take everything that we just previously discussed and consider how some of these features may impact your decision when deciding whether or not to upgrade to G Suite Business. So let's get this out of the way. Are you an organization that heavily depends on storage? Do you need or want to have all of your corporate images, videos, training sessions, or raw photo files accessible? Well, with G Suite Business, you'll never have to worry about quotas, right? Ever again. There's no more resource calculations, out-of-space warnings, or scrambling to add and manage additional servers. You can just store everything that you need in the cloud through Google's offering of G Suite Business, period. I think this is a bigger topic, and I can see it getting overlooked. I think this right here is why AppMaker is so interesting. This can really allow you to take these APIs. We deal with a lot of businesses that, they want to do more with what they have, but they don't know how. They see API, and they're like, it's neat that there's something available for me, but I have no idea how to use it. And I think AppMaker is really going to be that that bridge between understanding what needs to be developed and trying to actually just get a business function in a non-technical way. And I think that's really where that bridge is going to be very helpful in improving the experience overall for all Google Cloud users. So maybe your CEFO, right, might need you to, he might look at this as maybe, or she might look at this as a nice to have. But imagine if your chief security specialist or someone within the organization wants to see when a specific user access something. Maybe there was a user activity regarding when certain files were created or accessed, or even they want to know IP addresses where the user performed the activity. Well, this is another example of where the APIs in G Suite Business gives you access to retrieve Google Drive events by user, retrieve events by domain, events by name, export the results, and if your business depends on third-party applications, I really would take a look at G Suite Business as well, because some of these APIs are integral to utilizing what's out there. Okay. This is a tool that many organizations may think, I don't need that. Well, that's until you actually have a need for retention. If you're an organization that unfortunately has gone through a litigation hold, you'll know how valuable it is to have an e-discovery tool. And right here it says Mail and Drive. It also needs to say Hangouts, because that's also available as well. So large businesses may spend tens of millions of dollars on e-discovery each year. If you are facing litigation or have in the past, you may want risks associated with litigation, investigation, compliance, and this really helps you enable policies for archiving, retaining, and expunging Gmail, Google Hangout content, Drive content, etc. And this is one of the biggest additional features beyond the APIs, beyond the unlimited storage. That is something that is invaluable in my eyes when you need to, and when considering upgrading to G Suite Business. Admin functionality is so critical in terms of managing what you have, right? In terms of your user management, what people have access to, what they shouldn't have access to, permissions, etc. And really, the fact that Google lets you get so granular with permissions is something that gets is such a critical element of really doing a good job in terms of managing your domain. With G Suite Business, your admins can be more specific on policies for users, and you can really limit what you can do, such as you can say, all right, Team A can download or use Google Drive, the sync tool on their desktop, but we don't want Team B to do so. You can toggle between enabling offline access to Google Docs editors and decide who opens files and web apps installed on the Chrome Web Store. Really important stuff in terms of management of your staff when you're utilizing this technology. And then here's another question too: is do you want to remove Microsoft from the picture? As I discussed earlier, whether you stick to Office or move away from Microsoft, Google presents a very compelling alternative or addition. If your organization relies on Office, you can still go Google. And maybe you want to decommission the Exchange server, reduce your IT overhead. G Suite is a complete solution, and as mentioned before, part of a very extensive ecosystem brought to you by the Google Cloud. And just to reiterate that, I love this image of Sundar Pichai. When he stood in front of all these logos a couple of years ago, I was like, this is the message that Google is trying to say. They understand that organizations are not going to go all in on one application suite, period. People are going to still use Microsoft if they go Google. People are still going to use Google if they go Microsoft. There are some people that are always going to be Mac users, some people that are always going to be PC users. Some people prefer Safari as a web browser, Internet Explorer, or Chrome. And they see that, and they understand it. And so it's really important to know that whatever tablet or mobile device or desktop you're using, Google wants to make sure that you can still completely function in their ecosystem, and they're doing so very successfully. So another thing too, I talked a little bit about our going to Google Drive from a file server. And I wanted to take just a moment to talk about that. We live by the motto of one folder to rule them all. And what that means is instead of having a bunch of shared folders that are scattered across an organization, think about having one root folder. And this is exactly what you would have on your traditional file server. And you likely have a particular hard drive that has shared data on it. Let's call it the F drive. And inside that F drive, you have all your shares in which you manage one place. The reason why I'm bringing up this methodology is because with team drives coming out, I want to give you some insight into our philosophy that we've been talking about and implementing for years, and what's to come in Google Drive Teams, and how our philosophy can still be integrated. So with the root folder, right, it should be owned in by a non-human admin account. This is going back to general IT best practices. If you want to set up the root folder so that everyone in the organization can view it, that would be the most helpful. And then under the umbrella of this root folder, a particular individual will only be able to view the folders they have access to. So I think part of it too is that in addition to being able to using team drives, that's going to be extremely helpful for project-based work. But if you still want an entire architecture or folder structure very similar to what your server was, you're still going to want to use this methodology. In fact, we're seeing the opportunity to integrate team drives within our hierarchy here. And let me show you some more examples here. So for example, if you have a tree, right, you have, let's say it's called your organization root folder, and that one root folder has everything, everyone can view that one folder. And then underneath it, you have sales, marketing, etc., and HR, IT, etc. And then each one of the different team members are based upon the roles that we've assigned to these people through groups. We enable them to have either view or edit access, etc., to go in there. Then within there, we'll also incorporate these team drives, which for project-based work, which will be very helpful. And we're really looking forward to implement that. So I think this is going to be very good stuff. So this is who we are. This is our perfect life cycle of a client. We want to work with you, understand, perform audits, provide support as much as possible, help you understand what it means to upgrade, train, and make you our partner, have you be partnered with us so that we can continuously provide support and etc. But regardless if you just choose to work with us, the only way this works is if you're 100% invested. And even if there's any takeaway for this whatsoever, even if you never want to work with Profound Cloud, it's to just make sure that you educate your staff and make sure that they understand and leadership understands what this commitment is and how it's different from just making a simple decision as we're changing our email platform. There's so much more, and everything I talked about from App Engine to App Maker to just how the ecosystem works from Google Cloud all the way down to G Suite and the Android devices, Chrome, etc. It's really great. And I did mention Chrome a little bit. Don't discount them. If you have a larger organization or you're looking to just really have a solid way to manage all the devices, especially the desktops that your team is using and utilizing, and make sure that they're completely secure by enabling Google and pushing through Chrome devices. People can share these devices, log in, access what they need to access. They could lose it. You wipe the device remotely, pick up a new Chromebook, they log in, and it's like they have their computer right back in front of them again, which is really pretty amazing. So this is everything that G Suite Business offers you. It really is a very heavy suite that is extremely helpful for businesses, whether you're a startup or you're a large enterprise. It fits all of that, and with the granular management from an admin standpoint, it really pretty incredible. So if you're interested, please do reach out to Kyle at profoundcloud.com if you have any questions about working with us and how we can help you. And then also we have this white paper that we recommend you take a look at too. This is how you can switch from a file server to Google Drive, and then we can even talk even further during the discovery process of how we would integrate the team folders as well. Well, I thank everyone for their time. Hope this has been helpful. And I would say that most importantly, understanding what exactly you have in front of you is, let's just jump right back to this slide. I think this is the most helpful. Is people just wondering, what is G Suite? What is G Suite Business? What is G Suite Basic? And how does it impact my organization? Well, this should very quickly answer your question. But watch this again if you want, or reach out to us directly. We're happy to help. We think this is a very exciting next step in Google's chapter, and we hope to be working with you in the near future. Thank you. Have a good day.